The first signal arrived in the middle of silence, a cry that should never have existed. It came from the far edge of the known galaxy, deep in the ashes of what was once the Velan colony. The transmission was broken, scattered, almost erased by radiation storms. But beneath the static, the voice was clear. It wasn't mechanical. It wasn't alien. It was human. Help them, please. The message looped endlessly, echoing through comm relays, bouncing off damaged satellites and dead ships. For 3 standard hours, the Galactic Rescue Fleet searched the debris field. They found nothing living, just glassed soil, shattered domes, and metal twisted into silent screams. The colony had been wiped out by something no one recognized, a weapon that burned energy itself, erasing matter down to atoms. Fleet Command gathered in the orbiting dreadnought Haldren's Wrath. The officers stood in shock as the last fragments of the message played. Help them, please. It was the tone that chilled them. It wasn't a command or distress protocol. It was emotion. It was sorrow. Admiral Jorke turned to the assembled captains. That voice, it's not one of ours. It's primitive audio, biological in origin. From what species? One asked. Unknown, the admiral replied, scanning the data. But the pattern is ancient, matching signals from an unregistered blue planet in Sector 9A3. The natives call it. He hesitated, almost doubting the data. Earth. The Galactic Council met the next day inside their orbiting fortress, a ring-shaped citadel lit by the glow of a dying sun. Representatives of dozens of worlds argued across the chamber. Impossible, hissed the Serpentine envoy. Humans cannot send transmissions that far. Their technology is centuries behind ours. But the frequency matches perfectly, said an analyst from the Taran delegation. The signal crossed half the galaxy without relay support. That alone defies physics. At the center of the hall, Council Speaker Draven struck the floor with his staff. Silence. The source must be verified. If these humans possess a device capable of amplifying emotional resonance, it could explain the strange psychological response our crews reported. A murmur spread. Some officers confessed they had felt the message, not just heard it. It made even hardened soldiers feel sorrow, pity, even guilt. Feelings long trained out of them by endless wars. One counselor suggested destroying the planet before it spread whatever infection it carried. Another proposed isolation. But then the youngest officer in the chamber spoke up. His name was Commander Telvar, of the Zythian Exploration Fleet. Let me investigate, he said. If this species truly sent the message, I will confirm it. The council hesitated. Zythians were known for their cold logic and loyalty to procedure. If anyone could analyze this mystery without emotion, it was Telvar. Very well, said the speaker. But if this world proves dangerous, you will erase all evidence of contact. Telvar saluted. Understood. Days later, the Zythian vessel Vigilant Spear dropped out of hyperspace on the edge of the Sol system. The stars glittered against the black, and before them, a small blue sphere spun quietly in the dark. Telvar studied the readings. Oceans, clouds, thin atmosphere, one small moon. No planetary shields, no weapon arrays. A primitive world indeed. Prepare a probe, he ordered. Passive scan only. We don't alert the natives. The probe launched silently, gliding through space toward the planet. But as it neared orbit, something unexpected happened. A burst of radiation struck from the upper atmosphere. The probe shuddered, systems failing. Status. Telvar barked. Interference. Unknown EM source, non-hostile but powerful. Before they could recover, a transmission arrived on their comm channel. Not encrypted, not coded, just a calm human voice. Unidentified vessel, your craft appears damaged. We are dispatching assistance. Do not be alarmed. Telvar froze. Assistance, he repeated. They know we're here. The bridge crew stared at him, confused. In galactic protocol, unidentified ships were met with suspicion, not help. Yet these humans didn't send a warning or threat. They offered aid. Minutes later, their screens filled with the image of a small human vessel, sleek, white, clearly unarmed. It drifted toward the Zythian probe, extending mechanical arms to stabilize it. Within moments, the humans repaired the damage and gently released it back into orbit. Then another message arrived. "You seem lost. Can we help?" The words stunned the crew. No species had ever spoken like that to them. Not without motive, not without calculation. Telvar felt something strange, something he hadn't felt since childhood. His chest tightened. His breath caught. It wasn't fear. It was warmth. "Commander," his navigator asked quietly, "what are your orders?" Telvar stared at the blue planet on the screen. It glowed softly under its sun, fragile but alive. "Open a channel," he said at last. The crew gasped. "Direct contact, sir? That's forbidden." "I want to know," Telvar interrupted, "why they helped us when they didn't have to." As the communications link activated, static filled the bridge. Then the same voice spoke again, a woman this time, kind, calm, confident. "This is the Earth Research Vessel Horizon Dawn. We noticed your distress signal. Are you injured?" Telvar's translator hummed. The words came through soft and clear. He hesitated, then replied, "This is Commander Telvar of the Zythian fleet. You are aware you are addressing an alien military vessel." There was a pause, then quiet laughter. "Yes, Commander. We noticed. That's why we wanted to help." The bridge went silent. Telvar looked at the transmission feed, at the human face on the screen. She didn't flinch. She didn't look afraid. There was no demand, no bargain. Only genuine concern. It was something he had never seen in all his years of service. Curious, he whispered to himself. They act as though compassion is a weapon. He didn't know yet, but he was right. And that was the day the galaxy first heard of Earth. The stars had gone red. That was how Commander Telvar described the galaxy in his reports to the Zythian High Command. The red wasn't from the suns themselves. It was from the fires of war. The Krell Dominion was expanding again, devouring every free world it touched. Cities turned to ash, skies blackened, an entire species vanished in the silence that followed. Telvar had seen wars before. He had seen soldiers cry out for mercy and heard leaders promise peace they never meant to keep. But this war was different. The Krell didn't conquer, they consumed. Every planet they reached became fuel for their machines, their people reduced to slaves or test subjects. And through it all, Telvar couldn't forget the voice from that small blue world. "You seem lost. Can we help?" It haunted him, that human calmness. A species so primitive, so small, yet they had offered kindness when others offered fear. When the Galactic Council met again, panic filled the chamber. "The Krell have breached the outer colonies," shouted the Tauran delegate. "They destroyed 40 ships in a single hour." "Then we surrender," hissed another. "No one can stop them, not even our combined fleets." But Telvar stood tall, his cold eyes fixed on the holographic star map glowing before them. "There may be one world that hasn't chosen fear." The room turned silent. "Earth," he said. A wave of disbelief spread. "Primitive savages," someone muttered. "Barely out of their own atmosphere," another scoffed. Telvar ignored them. They may not have the weapons to fight the Krell, but they have something the Krell do not understand: compassion. The council laughed. Even Speaker Draven sneered. "Compassion will not stop plasma fire, Commander." "No," Telvar replied quietly, "but it might stop the hate that feeds it." Weeks later, Telvar left the council behind and returned to the Sol system, this time without permission. He wanted to see this strange species again, the ones who had saved his probe, the ones who had spoken to him without fear. He arrived above Earth's atmosphere in stealth mode, scanning the surface below. He expected chaos, tribes, wars, superstition. What he saw stunned him. Cities rose from the oceans like silver towers. Vast solar fields glowed under sunlight. Ships glided between orbit and ground, carrying supplies to other colonies on Mars and Luna. Humans had advanced further than the galaxy believed. But what caught his attention wasn't their machines. It was how they used them. From orbit, his scanners detected no war zones, no slave pits, no execution camps. Instead, he saw hundreds of small, bright heat signatures, emergency shelters, hospitals, aid centers. On the streets of war-scarred nations, humans were feeding refugees, rebuilding burned homes, and treating even captured enemies as if they were equals. He had never seen a world like this. "Open a secure channel to the Earth Research Fleet," Telvar ordered. Within minutes, a familiar voice answered. "This is Captain Sarah Lee, Horizon Dawn." "Commander Telvar, I didn't think you'd come back." He paused. "I didn't think I would, either." "Then why did you?" Telvar looked out through the viewport at the blue curve of her planet. "Because the galaxy is burning, Captain, and your people are the only ones who don't seem afraid of the fire." Sarah smiled faintly. "That's because fear doesn't rebuild anything, Commander. People do." He stared at her for a moment, unsure how to respond. "Your people treat even enemies with care. Why?" "Because pain has no side," she said softly. "We learned that long ago." Her words stayed with him. Telvar spent several days on Earth under diplomatic disguise, studying them. He visited hospitals where human doctors worked beside alien volunteers from nearby refugee ships. He saw children, human and alien, playing together among the ruins of a city that had once been bombed in Earth's own wars. Everywhere he looked, humans were building instead of destroying. He visited a memorial, a long black wall carved with names. A guide explained that it honored both soldiers and civilians from every side of an old world war. Telvar asked, "You remember your enemies the same as your heroes?" The guide nodded. "Because they were all human, and we swore never to repeat it." It made no tactical sense, yet somehow it gave them strength. Then came the breaking point. A distress signal from the Outer Rim. The Krell had launched another attack, this time on the Zythian outpost of Kalora Prime. Telvar's homeworld. He returned to his fleet at once. The battle was brutal. The Krell's new energy cannons melted entire ships to vapor. Civilians screamed over the comm lines. The Zythian fleets, disciplined, logical, efficient, were crushed within hours. When all seemed lost, a new signal appeared on his screen. "Human aid convoy incoming. Do not fire." Telvar froze. Aid convoy, in the middle of a war zone. Before he could question further, dozens of small human ships dropped out of hyperspace. Not warships, rescue vessels. They flew directly into the chaos, ignoring plasma fire, using their energy fields to shield crippled ships. "Idiots," growled one of Telvar's lieutenants. "They'll be slaughtered." But they weren't. The humans worked with eerie calm, rescuing trapped soldiers, Zythian, Taran, even Krell deserters. They didn't choose sides. They chose life. Telvar watched through the viewport as one human pilot guided a burning Krell transport into safety. He shouted at his crew, "Why are they saving the enemy?" Captain Lee's voice cut through the comms again. "Because pain has no flag, Commander. If we only save our own, no one gets saved at all." That moment shattered something inside him. The logic, the coldness, the endless calculations of war, none of it mattered. The humans were proving a new kind of strength, the strength to care even when it cost them everything. When the smoke cleared, the Krell retreated for the first time in decades. Not because they were beaten by force, but because they were confused. The Dominion couldn't understand what it had seen. Krell soldiers had watched their enemies save them, and that terrified them more than any weapon. As Telvar stood on the bridge of the Vigilant Spear, he looked toward the blue star where Earth orbited and whispered, "Perhaps the galaxy was wrong about them. Perhaps compassion is the most dangerous weapon of all." And far away, on that small blue planet, humanity prepared to prove it. The night sky above Kalora Prime burned like a dying sun. Every colony, every outpost in the outer system sent the same desperate message: "We are falling." The Krell Dominion had returned, fiercer than before, tearing through planetary defenses like paper. The Galactic Council tried to hide the truth, but even their encrypted channels were filled with screams. Commander Telvar watched from the bridge of the Vigilant Spear as another colony signal went dark. One more world erased. One more home gone. The Krell didn't conquer planets anymore. They turned them into examples. He could feel his crew breaking. Zythians were known for discipline, but the endless defeats had carved something hollow inside them. "Commander," said his second officer, voice trembling. "Our scouts confirmed the Krell weapon again. No survivors." Telvar closed his eyes. How many this time? 8 million. The number hit him like a blow. For a long moment, no one spoke. The ship was silent except for the hum of the engines and the distant rumble of the dying colony below. Then, the comms cracked open. "Medical Fleet Horizon Dawn to any survivors of Kalora Prime." Telvar's eyes snapped open. "Repeat that transmission." "This is Captain Sarah Lee of the Human Relief Corps. We are entering the combat zone. If you can hear this, hold position. We are coming." The crew exchanged horrified looks. "Humans." "Hey," someone muttered. "They'll be slaughtered." Telvar couldn't believe it either. No one came to Kalora Prime anymore. It was a graveyard of fire. Yet, on the long-range scanners, a cluster of small human ships emerged from hyperspace, unarmed, carrying nothing but cargo pods, medical drones, and atmospheric shuttles. "Impossible," Telvar said under his breath. They came to a battlefield without weapons. The Krell noticed them instantly. Dozens of heavy cruisers turned toward the incoming convoy, preparing to fire. "Get them out of here!" Telvar shouted over the comms. "They'll be vaporized." But the humans didn't flee. They dove straight through the plasma storms, using the wreckage of burning ships for cover. The Horizon Dawn flew at the center, its white hull glowing like a beacon amid the darkness. Every scanner in the system lit up. Every Krell ship paused. No one could understand what they were seeing. "Are they insane?" Telvar's lieutenant cried. Then, the humans began deploying drones. Not bombs or missiles, but rescue beacons. Hundreds of them, each one scanning for life. Each one transmitting one simple message across every open frequency. "We're here to help." For the first time in the war, the battlefield went silent. Minutes later, the Horizon Dawn broke through the debris field and landed near the ruins of a collapsed dome city. Fires raged across the horizon. The air shimmered with radiation. And yet, human medics stepped out of their shuttles, wrapped in light armor and breathing masks, carrying stretchers and water. Telvar's fleet arrived just as they began pulling survivors from the wreckage. Not only Zythians, but Taurans, Serpenti, and even young Krellings, the child forms of their sworn enemies. Telvar stormed into the landing zone, shouting, "Captain Lee, you're in violation of every galactic war protocol. These are enemy offspring." Sarah turned toward him, her face streaked with ash but calm. "No," she said softly. "They're children." Telvar stared at her, speechless. Behind her, 2 human medics were giving water to a trembling Krell child, who clutched at their hands like she'd never seen kindness before. "Do you know what you're doing?" he demanded. "If the Krell find out." "They already have," she interrupted, pointing to the sky. Through the smoke, Telvar saw the Krell ships descending, hundreds of them. The humans didn't run. They formed a circle around the wounded, arms raised, unarmed. When the Krell landed, their commander, a towering, armored creature with glowing red eyes, stepped forward. "You dare touch our young," he growled. "You think mercy will save you." Sarah didn't flinch. "No," she said quietly, "but maybe it'll save you." The Krell commander froze, as if the concept itself was foreign. He looked at the rescued children behind her, their wide eyes watching him. Slowly, he lowered his weapon. Without another word, he turned back to his ships and ordered a retreat. The Battle of Kalora Prime ended not with victory, but with compassion. Hours later, Telvar stood beside Sarah Lee in the burnt-out remains of a control tower. "You could have died," he said. "All of you." She looked out at the rescued civilians being loaded into ships. "We all die someday, Commander. The question is what we do before that happens. You risked everything for strangers." "Not strangers," she said. "People. You just stop calling them that." Telvar didn't reply. He was staring at the survivors. Zythian soldiers who once hated the humans now worked side by side with them, carrying supplies and patching wounds. Even a group of captured Krell engineers volunteered to help repair escape pods. He realized what he was seeing wasn't just a rescue. It was a seed. A small, fragile beginning of something larger than war. Later, when the Galactic Council demanded an explanation, Telvar refused to condemn Earth. They saved lives, he told them. Enemy and ally alike. That's not weakness. That's strength none of us possess. But the Council didn't see it that way. They called Earth's actions reckless interference and banned human ships from entering war zones. Telvar saw the truth. The Council feared humanity, not for their weapons, but for their ideas. He returned to his quarters and recorded a private report. The humans have changed everything, he whispered. For the first time in history, soldiers are beginning to question what victory means. Outside his viewport, the stars still burned red, but faintly, faintly. One of them was blue. And across the shattered colonies, a name began to spread in whispers among survivors, the healers of war. It was humanity's first legend among the stars. The galaxy was still burning, but the fire had started to change color. Where there had once been only red, the glow of war and destruction, now there were faint traces of white and blue. They came from small human ships that moved quietly through war zones, ignoring the front lines, rescuing the forgotten. No one understood them. No one controlled them. They called themselves the Relief Corps, though everyone else had another name. The Healers of War. Commander Telvar watched them from a distance. He had spent his life studying strategy and power. Now, he studied something new, compassion, and it made less sense the more he saw it. Humans had no empire. No fleet rivaled theirs in power because they barely had one. Yet their influence spread faster than any armies. Wherever they went, people followed them, refugees, deserters, doctors, engineers. Even some Krell scientists defected, claiming they wanted to learn from the humans. To Telvar, it felt like watching gravity itself bend. It was during one of his missions in the Arctes Belt that Telvar first heard the whispers of a human project called Eden. At first, it sounded like myth. A place of peace hidden somewhere between systems, where wounded soldiers from any species could go and never be judged. A world protected not by weapons, but by a promise. His crew laughed when he asked about it. Another human story, they said. They named things like legends. But then one night, a distress call reached his ship from the Outer Rim, encrypted with human codes. When he opened it, the message was short. Eden is real. We need help. The signal came from a dead sector, far beyond Krell patrol lines. Against all orders, Telvar set course immediately. When the Vigilant Spear dropped out of hyperspace, there was nothing, just a dark planet half buried in nebula dust. No satellites, no orbital defenses, no heat signatures. Then his sensors caught a strange reading, a field of energy surrounding the planet, soft and rhythmic, almost like a heartbeat. Cloaking device, asked his navigator. Something more, Telvar murmured. Bring us closer. As they descended through the clouds, the darkness parted, and the crew gasped. Below them stretched an ocean of green. Vast forests and rivers shimmered under twin moons. Cities of glass and silver rose from the ground, powered by sunlight, not fusion. Shuttles moved between them like fireflies. And everywhere, Telvar saw creatures of every kind, human, Zythin, Taran, even Krell, working side by side. The place looked impossible. Beautiful, peaceful. Commander, whispered his first officer. Is this? Yes, Telvar said softly. This is Eden. The ship landed in a wide clearing surrounded by golden trees. Waiting for them was Captain Sarah Lee, her uniform now marked with a simple symbol, a green circle around a small blue dot. Welcome to Project Eden, Commander, she said with a smile. Telvar stepped out of the airlock slowly, his boots crunching on alien soil. How did you build this? He asked. No one knew. No one saw. That was the point, Sarah replied. While the galaxy fought, we built. She led him through the main city. Instead of guards, there were children playing. Instead of weapons, there were greenhouses and repair stations. Soldiers who once fought each other now worked together to grow food and clean water. Telvar's eyes caught the sight of a massive hall where banners from every known world hung side by side. No hierarchy, no politics. This, he whispered, defies every law of power. Sarah turned to him. Maybe it's time to write new ones. Later, in a quiet meeting room overlooking the forest, Telvar listened as Sarah explained the truth. Project Eden began after Kalora Prime, she said. We realized fighting the Krell wouldn't save the galaxy. So we did something different. We started building sanctuaries instead of bases. We teach instead of command. We help even those who hurt us. Telvar frowned. And the council knows nothing. They wouldn't allow it, she said simply. They think peace must be controlled. But compassion can't be controlled, Commander. It has to be shared. He thought of the council's endless arguments. The power struggles. The fear. And here was this hidden world thriving under nothing but trust. He didn't understand it, but he respected it. Then the alarm blared. A deep rumble shook the ground. On the screens, red lights flashed. A Krell battle fleet had entered the system. Telvar shot to his feet. How did they find you? Sarah's face hardened. We saved too many of their people. So now they want to destroy what we built. Evacuate the planet, he ordered. We can't, she said. If we run, everything we stood for dies. Telvar clenched his fists. Then you'll die with it. Sarah turned to him calmly. Maybe, but the idea won't. Her words echoed in his mind. Outside, the sky turned red. Dozens of Krell destroyers descended, weapons glowing. The city's shields flickered, barely functional, not meant for war. Telvar stood at the window, torn between duty and instinct. Then he spoke quietly into his calm. Zythian fleet, prepare to engage. His crew hesitated. Sir, our orders are to avoid interference. Those orders are cancelled, he said. These people saved us. Now we save them. The vigilant spear roared into the sky, its cannons igniting the darkness. The battle that followed was brutal. Krell fire tore through the upper atmosphere. Telvar's ships were outnumbered, outgunned, but not outwilled. And then, something unexpected happened. Krell captains began hesitating. Reports came through that some refused to fire on Eden. Many of them had family rescued by humans. One Krell commander even defected mid-battle, turning his guns against his own fleet. Telvar watched in awe. It's spreading, he whispered. The compassion, it's spreading to them. When the smoke cleared, the Krell fleet was gone. Some destroyed, others fled. Eden stood, damaged, scarred, but alive. Sarah stood beside Telvar on the city balcony, watching the sunrise. They'll come again, she said. And next time, there will be more of them. Telvar nodded slowly. Then the galaxy will have to choose. Fear or hope. The wind carried the scent of green leaves and ash. Far above them, somewhere beyond the stars, the Krell Dominion gathered its full strength. The order was simple: exterminate Earth. And for the first time, Telvar truly feared what was coming. The stars above Earth burned red. It started as a shadow, one so large that even the moon's glow seemed to fade under it. Then the shadow moved, and the warning systems across the solar system screamed. Thousands of red dots appeared on every screen, spreading like a disease across the black. The Krell Dominion had arrived. From the far edges of the Milky Way, they came, massive warships shaped like dark blades, engines pulsing with hate. Their goal was clear: erase the humans and everything they had touched. In the Galactic Council chambers, chaos erupted. Some demanded sanctions. Others called for retreat. But one voice cut through the noise. Commander Telvar. They are not ready for this war, he said, slamming his clawed hand on the table. But we are. The Council's High Speaker glared at him. You would defend primitives? You would risk your fleet for a doomed planet? Telvar met his gaze with a calm, cold stare. I have seen something your politics will never understand. They fight not to rule, but to protect. The Council refused his plea. So, Telvar made his choice. He turned his fleet away from the Council's orders and headed for Earth. For the first time in his long career, he was not following commands. He was following his conscience. Earth's orbit was chaos. Civilian shuttles raced toward bunkers on the Moon and Mars. Human warships, smaller and slower than Krell vessels, formed a desperate line of defense around the blue planet. On the USS Horizon, Captain Sarah Lee stood on the command deck, eyes fixed on the holomap. Red markers filled it faster than she could count. "How many?" she asked quietly. Her second officer swallowed. "Too many. At least 5,000 Krell ships." Sarah didn't flinch. "Then we'll make them pay for every inch." Her crew nodded, fear replaced by a hard, steady resolve. They had trained for this moment, not to win, but to hold the line long enough for others to live. And then, the first Krell missile hit the atmosphere. The sky caught fire. Over the Atlantic Ocean, a formation of human warships rose through the burning clouds. They were smaller than the Krell dreadnoughts, fragile by comparison, but they fought with precision and fury. Every missile was guided not by machines, but by human hands. Every explosion carried the weight of those they loved below. On the ground, billions watched from bunkers, cities, and shelters. They could see the fire streaks above their world. They didn't pray for victory, they prayed for time. From orbit, the Krell commander watched coldly. His name was Vorthal, a veteran of 100 planetary purges. To him, Earth was just another target. "Begin planetary bombardment," he ordered. His ships opened fire. The first blast tore through the upper atmosphere, but before they could reach the surface, something shimmered, a blue light, like a shield made of mist and energy. "Impossible," Vorthal growled. "They have planetary defenses." No, they didn't. The light wasn't from a weapon. It was coming from Eden, the hidden project that had now extended its reach through an experimental network of satellites. A planetary compassion field, built to heal ecosystems, was now absorbing plasma fire. But it wouldn't hold forever. On board the Horizon, Sarah Lee gritted her teeth as the ship shuddered. "Power everything into the shield relay. Keep it alive." Her engineer shouted, "It's overloading." "Then we burn it till it dies." That was when the Zythean fleet arrived. Dozens of massive silver warships burst from hyperspace, their engines trailing light like comets. The Vigilant Spear led them, its hull scarred from past battles but its guns glowing bright. "Commander Telvar to Earth Command," came a deep voice across the comms. "You fought for us. Now we fight for you." Cheers erupted across human channels. For the first time, they were not alone. Zythean cannons opened fire. Krell destroyers fell in burning streaks, splitting open like black fruit. Telvar's ships weaved through enemy formations, buying time for the humans to regroup. "Focus fire on their command ships." Telvar roared. "Break their line." The combined human Zythean fleet moved as one. It wasn't coordination, it was trust. But the Krell had one more weapon. A massive ship, easily the size of a small moon, emerged from the shadows. Its core pulsed red like a beating heart. The Oblivion Titan, Vorthal's personal flagship. Its main weapon could vaporize continents. As it charged, the red glow spread across the sky like a sunrise of death. Sarah stared at it in horror. "If that fires," Telvar finished his sentence quietly, "there will be no Earth left." For a long moment, no one spoke. The battlefield went still. The Krell fleet pulled back slightly, confident in their final strike. Then Sarah Lee stood straight. "Commander," she said, "I have an idea, but it's going to break every rule of physics we know." Telvar gave a sharp grin. "Then it sounds like a human idea." Deep in orbit, the humans activated an old project, the Artemis Array, a massive solar ring built decades earlier to study the sun's radiation. It wasn't meant as a weapon, but Sarah saw what it could become. "Reroute its solar collectors," she ordered. "Angle them at the Titan. Full power." Her crew stared. "Captain, that could overload." "Do it." The array turned, catching the sun's light and focusing it into one blinding beam. For a moment, the space between the Earth and the Titan burned white. The Titan's shields held, then cracked. Vorthal roared as alarms filled his ship. "Impossible. Their compassion means nothing if they destroy themselves." But Sarah's voice came through the comms. "You still don't understand. Compassion isn't weakness. It's power with a purpose." The beam cut through the Titan's core. The explosion lit up the void like a second sunrise. Silence followed. No one spoke for a long time. Then the cheers began, human, Zythan, even from defected Krell ships. The Dominion fleet broke apart, retreating into deep space. Earth was scarred, but it still stood. Sarah looked out at the blue planet below. "We won today," she said softly. "But this isn't the end." Telvar nodded. "No, it's only the beginning. The galaxy saw what happened here. They will fear you and follow you." He turned toward the stars. "And maybe, for the first time, they will learn what compassion really means." But far away, in the darkness between galaxies, something vast began to move. A hidden Krell council watched the defeat of their greatest fleet and whispered in unison, "If compassion is their weapon, then we must find a way to kill it." The war wasn't over. It was just changing. The war was not over. In the silence after the siege of Earth, something strange began to happen across the stars. Where once there had been division, there was now hesitation. Soldiers who had fought for decades stopped firing. Worlds that had never spoken before began exchanging messages, some of peace, others of confusion. The galaxy was changing, and everyone blamed the same thing: human compassion. Commander Telvar stood inside the council hall on Aeon Prime, watching 1,000 delegates shout across the chamber. They argued not about weapons or treaties, but about emotions. "The humans are dangerous," shouted the Tauran ambassador. "Their kindness infects entire armies. It breaks discipline." Another delegate slammed his fist. "They make our soldiers question orders, question wars." Telvar remained silent, his black eyes cold. He had seen this coming. The Krell had been defeated at Earth, but their influence lingered like poison in the air. Now the galaxy was afraid not of human power, but of the way they made people feel. And fear, Telvar knew, was the oldest weapon in existence. Meanwhile, on Earth, Captain Sarah Lee was recovering from a battle. Her ship, the Horizon, floated above the Pacific, its hull scarred and blackened. Yet she couldn't rest, because she knew something the others didn't. During the siege, she had intercepted a strange Krell transmission. Not coordinates, not a threat, a recording. A Krell voice whispered, "If compassion is their weapon, we will turn it against them." That message haunted her. For weeks, reports began coming in from across the galaxy. Fleets vanishing, colonies falling apart without a single shot fired, captains turning on each other, convinced their allies had betrayed them. The Krell weren't attacking anymore. They were corrupting. One evening, Sarah sat in her quarters, staring at a screen filled with data. The door slid open, and Telvar stepped in, his presence heavy but calm. "You look tired," he said. She smiled faintly. "We just saved the galaxy. You'd think that would help me sleep." He walked closer. "You've seen it, haven't you? The fractures, the doubt." She nodded. "They are doing something psychological, turning our compassion into confusion. Every act of kindness now breeds suspicion. Every peace offer looks like manipulation." Telvar's claws tapped the table slowly. "The Krell are not trying to win battles anymore. They are trying to destroy trust." "And it's working," Sarah said. He studied her for a long time. "Then we must fight in a way they cannot understand." Far across the galaxy, inside the hidden Krell citadel, the true architects of this plan gathered. Their leader, Vorthal, had survived the destruction of his flagship. Half his body was replaced with black cybernetic armor. His red eyes burned with hatred. "Our fleets failed," he growled, "but their unity is a weakness. Compassion makes them soft. It makes them slow to punish. If we can twist it, they will destroy themselves." A scientist approached and activated a hologram. It showed a pulse, like a heartbeat, spreading across multiple systems. "This," she hissed, "is the empath virus. A neural wave that heightens emotional response. It makes compassion unstable, too strong, too painful. Soon they will drown in their own empathy." Vorthal's mouth curled into a smile. "Perfect. Let them feel too much. Let them love until they collapse." Weeks later, it began. Across Eden and dozens of allied worlds, people started changing. They felt the pain of others so deeply it became unbearable. Soldiers refused to fight because they couldn't stand causing harm. Doctors collapsed under the weight of their patients' suffering. Entire cities froze, paralyzed by their own empathy. Sarah received hundreds of distress calls. The galaxy was breaking apart under its own heart. She stood on the command deck, fists clenched. It's not compassion that's killing them. It's manipulation. Her chief engineer, Reyes, said quietly, "Then we need a cure. But how do you fight an idea?" Sarah's eyes hardened. With another idea. She sent out a single message across the galactic net. To all who can hear this, compassion is not feeling pain for others. It's acting despite the pain. The Krell want us to drown in emotion. Don't let them. Stand, even when it hurts. At first, few responded. Then one by one, messages came back. We hear you. We will not fall. We fight for each other. It spread faster than the virus. Not as data, but as hope. But the Krell were not finished. In the shadow of a dying star, Vorthal watched the rising unity and snarled. If their hearts are strong, then we will crush their world again. He turned to his fleet. Prepare the weapon. The scientist trembled. You mean the silencer? It will erase entire consciousness fields. It will kill emotions themselves. Exactly, Vorthal said. If compassion is humanity's weapon, we will erase compassion from the universe. Back on Earth, Sarah felt the tremor before the scanners detected it. A wave unlike any before. Cold, empty, emotionless. The readings made no sense. It wasn't energy, it was anti-emotion. She looked up from her console. Tell Vi, it's like the universe itself is going numb. He turned sharply. That is the Krell's final weapon. The silencer. Then we stop it, Sarah said. Telvar hesitated. It is not a bomb we can destroy. It is an idea, a device that kills empathy itself. Sarah stared out at the stars, her voice steady. Then maybe it's time we show them that compassion isn't just a feeling. It's something much stronger. As Earth and its allies prepared for the final confrontation, a quiet broadcast echoed across space. An old, static-filled human recording from centuries ago. A child's voice whispered through the void. Help them, please. The same voice that had started it all. Telvar looked at the signal and smiled faintly. The galaxy doesn't understand yet, he said softly. Compassion isn't their weakness. It's their evolution. The stars flickered, and for a brief moment, it seemed the universe itself was listening. But some way, in the frozen black between galaxies, the silencer awakened. And this time, it was coming for every living mind.